Ready,
Awesome.
set, go?
Yep.
All right. Well, good morning. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year to all of you. It was an interesting holiday season, to say the least. I hope everyone got a chance to either experience family or experience family on Zoom, or at least talk to everybody on the phone, because it was tough. It was tough. We cooked here at the house. We didn't cook like we usually do, but we did bring out some of the family favorites. But one of the family favorites we did not bring out, which has been a tradition for probably 22 years, is my Eggs Benedict with hollandaise sauce. Why is that a tradition? Well, on Christmas Eve, we always have fish. It's very fish focused. That's our Christmas Eve. Everyone goes to bed and everybody gets up in the morning, and it's a tradition of my mother-in-law and I to make breakfast for the family before we have the big Christmas dinner. And my mother-in-law takes the lead on this because she knows that I've got a few things ahead of me with the dinner, but it's something I have cherished and enjoyed for many, many years with my mother-in-law. She wasn't able to be here that morning, and we didn't have Eggs Benedict. So when I was starting to think about something that I missed during the holidays besides my family, I said, you know what? We're going to have Eggs Benedict. And that's why I chose this for January's Cooking with Gary. Tribute to my mother-in-law, to my family, today's dinner. Now, I'm on TV today. I know that. Thank you, Lori. It's always nice to know that I finally made TV with Cooking with Gary and Zoom. But now I wanted to show you I'm also published. That is a cookbook that my oldest daughter put together. Here's the back of it in my kitchen. My oldest daughter, with the serious help of my youngest daughter and the rest of my family, put together a cookbook of the family recipes. It's not only the Carg family, it's my mother and father-in-law, my wife's family, my mother-in-law's recipes, my daughter's recipes, my youngest daughter's recipes, and their husband and significant other also contributed. So it's a family cookbook. It was one of the Christmas gifts that was given out by my oldest daughter to the family. And it's kind of cool, not only on TV, one of those goals, but now I have actually been published. So actually the second time, but kind of a cool thing. So copies available. So let's do Eggs Benedict. What is difficult about Eggs Benedict is it has a couple key components, and it's a fun dish for us to do for Christmas breakfast on the morning. But the one thing that always causes us difficulty, and we fixed it, and I'll give it to you as a tip, is the hollandaise sauce. Now, hollandaise sauce is like the gravy to a wonderful roast, or mashed potatoes and gravy. You can't have Eggs Benedict, in my opinion, without a yummy bite of lemon with egg yolk and whipped cream and butter to encoat, if you will, the Eggs Benedict. So it's like a McDonald's sandwich, egg sandwich that you get, but then it has this component that kind of puts it over the top, in my opinion, and that's the hollandaise sauce. It's the first thing we always make that morning, Christmas morning, and it's the thing that we watch probably the closest because it's highly sensitive to turning on you pretty quick, and it all has to do with the temperature and the moisture that's in the sauce. So we'll talk about it, and I'll give you some tips. I also have a couple extra items for you to have for this month's cooking tools. I have my poaching, my egg poacher pan, which I use. And behind me, I have a double boiler, which we haven't talked about either, which I store and take out for certain things. But that also makes the hollandaise sauce stay right where we want it, and we can use it. So I'll talk about those items as we go. So let's run through the recipe. You basically have two separate things you're doing in this recipe. One is the sauce, and the other is the poaching of the eggs. So you make the hollandaise sauce first. It's basically butter, egg yolk, not egg white, just egg yolk. So you're going to separate it. This calls for mixed lime. I use lemon. I like lemons more. You can use a lime, but I use a lemon. And the reason I do is tradition, but when this was originally created, it was made with a lemon, and I've continued to make it with it. This recipe that I pulled, which I felt did the best for helping us on this class, they call for a lime. Maybe you like limes more. Limes are a little bit more difficult to get juice out of, but I think what you'll find is the lemon produces plenty of juice. You need that acid in the hollandaise sauce to finish it off with the fat and the salt. So that's why it's important. But you are basically putting all those ingredients. I've already melted the butter in the double boiler. But then you're going to add a little bit of the butter that's already been warmed into the egg mixture, the 4 eggs that are the egg yolks. The reason you're doing that is you want to make sure that the egg yolks don't turn with the heat of the butter into scrambled eggs. So you add it gracefully and slowly, and just keep on repeating a couple spoonfuls at a time until you've totally incorporated the warm butter in with the egg yolks, and you don't turn the egg yolks into scrambled eggs. Once the butter's totally been incorporated, then you pour it back into the saucepan. Just let it sit on a warm heating double boiler. The boiling water in the bottom of the double boiler keeps the sauce just right, just set. Then we want to poach some eggs. Now you can poach eggs a couple different ways. You can poach the eggs if you like with just a pan of boiling water. Put a little bit of white vinegar in there. And you're like, what are you doing putting white vinegar in poaching eggs? It's a little tip for today if you have never heard this in cooking, but white vinegar allows the poached egg to kind of gel. What I mean by that is this. It's a chemical reaction with the vinegar and the boiling water with the outer white part of the egg when you're poaching an egg. So it kind of incorporates it. It doesn't let the egg kind of spin all over the place. It just congeals it with the rest of the egg yolk when you're poaching. I've always used it. It doesn't really taste any different. It's just plain white vinegar. But it is one of those chemical reactions and little tips that I always like to do is I always put a couple tablespoons of white vinegar in my boiling water before I poach it. So just keeps that white egg together. You'll see it when I swirl it. You do really 1 egg at a time. I sometimes do 2 because usually with Eggs Benedict, I do 2 eggs for the plate. You want to cook that poached egg for about 3 to 5 minutes. Why 3? Why 5? Some people don't like runny eggs. If that's the case, go the full 5 minutes. If you like a little bit of sauce with the egg, go 3 or 4 minutes, because what will happen is as you cut the egg, it'll mix with the hollandaise sauce and melt all over the Canadian bacon and the English muffin, which makes for, the glorious combination of the sauce with the egg and all the other flavors that come together, and it's really what makes that dish. I think what you'll find is just simply after you poach that egg, just spoon it out. Make sure there's no liquid on it when you put it on your English muffin. Then we go ahead and we start assembling it. You want to toast an English muffin. Kroger has a great brand. So does Thomas's. Thomas's English muffin is the one that's always advertised. We're using it today because that's what Kroger gave me. I also have some frozen ones in my freezer from Kroger, so I use both. It's your choice. Some people like sourdough English muffins. It's whatever your preference. The only one I probably wouldn't use is the cinnamon raisin one. I would stick with plain or sourdough in assembling. Then you got way too many things in your Eggs Benedict. So when you assemble it, you're basically taking your English muffin, putting that after you've toasted it on the bottom of the plate. Then as you assemble it, usually what I do next is I put 1 or 2 slices of warmed Canadian bacon on, not what you would consider American bacon. You want to use Canadian bacon. It's less fat. It's cut round just for Eggs Benedict. And all you want to do is warm it. It's already cooked, but you don't want to dry it out. So you got to be real careful. Some people put it in a pan, they dry it out, then it becomes tough. You can microwave it for about 30 seconds. Just warm it, just so when you take it out of the fridge, it's not cold as part of your dish. Then after that, you take your poached egg that's been in the vinegar boil, and then you just put that on top of the Canadian bacon, and then you go to your hollandaise sauce. Pour the hollandaise sauce over generously, and once you do that, you'll be set with your Eggs Benedict. Some people will clip chives. Some people will clip parsley to give the dish a little bit of a larger presentation. We won't do that today. All I have is cilantro from last night's dinner, so we're not going to do parsley. I have a second recipe at the bottom of the second page. Thanks, Brenda, for sending that out. And really what that is another way of doing it. Now, that one talks about, a big family recipe. It's the one we used when we got this special pan to do poaching. But what's nice about that one is it has a couple variations to it that you'll see. Now, this one uses both lemon and lime juice. It also talks about cayenne pepper. Now, for some of you that don't like spice, I would avoid cayenne pepper. But if you want to kick it up a notch, a little bit of Frank's hot sauce or cayenne pepper is always a nice touch. It's got plenty of butter, plenty of English muffins. On the protein of the Canadian bacon, probably the one protein I wouldn't use is American bacon or pork belly bacon. But we have made many times in our house using salmon, a small fillet of salmon, cut about 4 by 4 on an egg. English muffin with hollandaise sauce is a real treat. And we've used other proteins as well, but Canadian bacon's probably the one we always do for Christmas. But when I'm making a dinner with Eggs Benedict, I will substitute the Canadian bacon if I don't have it or I haven't planned for it to be a breakfast, and we'll put in salmon, just a small piece of salmon, sometimes smoked, sometimes not, but just make sure it's cooked lightly and use that in substitution of your Canadian bacon. So it works real well. So let's get on to cooking, and we'll take it from there. I'm going to turn the camera down to my cutting board, which is where I do my demonstrations. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the hollandaise sauce. All right, we'll make that as the first thing we prep. So there's my Canadian bacon, already been pre-warmed. Here is my double boiler. Why is it a double boiler? See the heat, the boiling water, and that's the butter that's been melted. So my double boiler is playing a role. This is a pan I have. I don't use it often, but you can use it to melt chocolate, melt butter, melt a fat. it really works really well. So we've got that done. So let's make the hollandaise sauce. So we melted the butter. Let's whip up our eggs. We've got 4 eggs that we're going to go ahead and separate out. This is always a fun trick. I'll show you a little secret at the end. But all I'm doing is getting rid of the egg white and taking the egg yolk to make the sauce. Doesn't matter that the egg breaks. In poaching it does, but in this it doesn't. Really having a good time with that. So there's the shells. This is another way. Whoop, that one's live. This is another way to separate the egg white from the egg yolk, is just to put it in your hands back and forth until you get rid of the egg white, and then you're all set. Thankful for a close by sink. But all I've done is I've put the egg in the pan that I'm going to whip. So now you've got the egg yolk. This is going to be your hollandaise sauce. And after you've whipped it up, so we want to temper this mix. It's cold because the eggs came out of the fridge, but you want to temper it a little bit, and that's how you add a little bit of butter at a time. So just adding a spoon is not going to allow the eggs to become scrambled. But to make this sauce properly, you definitely have to incorporate the butter into the egg yolks. One at a time. It catches up with the temperature. And as you can see, it hasn't turned into scrambled eggs. All it's turned into is a wonderful, lushy sauce that, trust me, you'll appreciate. In my opinion, it's the key to this dish. When it's done right, you'll really be able to appreciate it. When it's done bad, there's nothing wrong with starting over with 4 more eggs and poaching them if you scramble the eggs. However, this is 4 tablespoons of melted butter. It's been incorporated into 4 eggs and egg yolks. And it's totally incorporated. And we're set. So as you can see, you've got this lush sauce that's right there. So now you want to take this wonderful kitchen tool and put your lemon half in it and just squeeze your lemon, which is your acid, for your sauce. What's great about this is the juice has entered the sauce, the seed is here, and so is the rind. So I just put that there. I need 1 or 2 tablespoons, and I usually get about 1 tablespoon per slice of lemon. Now, another lime, you'd probably have to use 3 or 4 limes to get this much juice. In my opinion, it's another reason why you use a lemon instead of a lime. Now, as you can see, there is no seed in this wonderful hollandaise sauce. And it's a sauce, liquidy sauce that just needs another little fat, and that's the whipping cream. I use heavy whipping cream. We always have this in our house. But when you put this in, it makes the sauce even more luscious. But you can see that sauce is wonderful. Now, you want to put a little salt and pepper in. We like pepper at our house. A little bit of salt. Now, for some people, they might use white pepper. Why do you use white pepper instead of black pepper, which is commonly used? Well, you see these little specks? Some people don't like specks in their sauce. I like it because I like how it looks, but I also have white pepper. That's another great way. So what you've done now is you've created your sauce. All I'm going to do is take the sauce, put it in my double boiler, and I'm going to put it back on the fire. Keep it warm. All right, so we've got our hollandaise sauce made, which is very important. The reason it's important is you want to have that done before you start poaching your eggs and finally wrapping up this dish, because we're getting close to the last part of this. So in a saucepan, you're going to fill it up with hot water, not the double boiler. This is another saucepan. Get a little water in it, get it boiling, and then you want to, as soon as it starts rolling, you want to put some white vinegar in. Just put a tablespoon in, and you'll be all set. Once again, that's to gel the white poaching on the egg. So now what we want to do is we want to crack an egg into a cup. Now, why do we do that? Well, if you don't, what you're going to find is if you try to do that over the boiling water and make a mistake, you got a problem. So what I do is I crack it open, put it in a small little dish, put away the shell, and I'm ready to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to get the pan, and I'll show you how I do this. Take my word, you can smell a little bit of the vinegar in here. And all I'm going to do is start swirling be careful here, swirling the boiling water. And the reason you do that is it also helps the egg go in there. So I put the egg in there, and now I'm going to put it back in the fire, let it cook for a couple minutes. You want to test your hollandaise sauce to make sure it's got the proper amount of salt, lemon, and if you're going to put cayenne pepper, that's not too hot. Now let's talk about what happens if your egg kind of breaks. You can always throw that egg out and start another poaching egg with a little bit of, the vinegar's already in the water, so you can go ahead and do that. But you want to cook the egg until it's nice and poached, and then you take it out with a slotted spoon. The reason you take it out with a slotted spoon is that really permits the vinegar water to kind of dissipate and not soak your English muffin Canadian bacon with it. It says it's not abnormal for the white foam to foam on top of the water when you're poaching. Depending on how fresh your eggs are, you'll see that foam kind of be produced or not. So it's just really up to you. So while the egg is cooking, you want to make sure you warm up your Canadian bacon, which is already done. I put this on a plate, I warmed it up. What's nice about it is it's still moist and it's warm, but you know, it's pliable. When you put this in a frying pan for too long, you just barely want to cook it for a little bit, like maybe a minute or two, or microwave it for 30 seconds. Because you don't want this tough when you're cutting through your Eggs Benedict. It just doesn't work. I'm gonna check out my poached egg. we're getting close to the assembly of the dish. This is my favorite part because I start drooling. But here is your plate and what you're going to cook. Now, I have already taken it upon myself due to the joy of TV. And I've already gone ahead and toasted my English muffin. So what you do is you get your Thomas's English muffin, split them open, put them in the toaster. They get a little crispy. That's another texture that you want to have. Then I take 1 or 2 slices of Canadian bacon. And I just put that on. I like 2 slices. I'm a big Canadian bacon fan. Salmon you can also use. Now, what I've done here is see how the egg is all together? The reason it's together is because of the vinegar. So that's really been a very helpful part in making this dish all come together. So all I'm going to do is scoop the egg that's poached and cooked to my liking on top. And see, there you go. You get the poached egg. It's rock and roll. Now here's my hollandaise sauce that I wanted to purposely do this. See how this is kind of gelled up a little bit? This is the rescue for hollandaise sauce when that does it. Just add a little bit of cold water and it immediately goes back to that warm, luscious sauce. So it was kind of congealing, almost like a scrambled egg, but that's how you save hollandaise sauce. I learned that years ago. I've been invited to many parties where they're using asparagus, and that's how you change it up. See how that sauce just drips, looks wonderful. But if your hollandaise sauce ever does that, there's that. My executive producer, if she would like to eat some hollandaise sauce and eggs Benedict, it is now ready. So there's the dish.